And for our next historical peeps on the piss-based location, we'll be heading to the Prospect of Whitby. That journey will be made by river, as Pepys would have done, although we can't get to the pub from the river anymore, as he would have done. We will go there by river. But before we do, a little historical look back. We start off, of course, with the modern image I took myself here of Samuel Pepys' bust in Seething Lane in the garden that stands where the old Navy Board office and Pepys' previous home would have stood. But the Thames, a 17th century image you can see here from a London window, shows the Thames that Pepys would have known. Over to the left is Old London Bridge. Bear in mind the narrowness of those arches, that will come up again in a minute. In the centre is the Church of St Mary Overy, as it would have been known in those days, now known to us as Southwark Cathedral. I'll be covering that one after our Pepys Fest. Amazing building. But the Pepys journeys on the Thames, which he would have made regularly and often, as many Londoners did, because the Thames in those days, as I've said many times before, was a highway. It was far easier to travel by river than it was by road, which the London streets were filled with dirt, disease and crime. So river journeys were much easier. You would call over one of these Thames barges by calling over a waterman. And this is a waterman of Pepys' era, very much what they would have looked like. And he would have taken you up, down or across river. Another thing that I wanted to feature, and I mentioned about the narrowness of the arches of the bridge, are the Thames Frost Fairs. Between 1607 and 1814 there were a total of 7 major frost fairs held on the frozen River Thames in the heart of London. These fairs hosted bull baiting, pop-up pubs, and even saw a king or two taking part in the festivities. Pepys mentions the frost fairs in his diaries, and here is a diary entry from Tuesday the 1st of January 1666/67. Lay long, being a bitter cold frosty day, the frost being now grown old and the Thames covered up with ice. Up to the office, were all the morning busy. At noon to the change, a little, where Mr. James Hoblan and I walked a good while, speaking of our ill condition in not being able to set out a fleet, we doubt this year, and the certain ill effect this must bring, which is lamentable. So where many people enjoyed the frost fairs, and I'm quite sure Samuel and Elizabeth did in their own way, in a professional capacity, it screwed things up pretty much for the Navy Board and the Navy and shipping in general, because nothing could get up and down the Thames. Here we see the 1666-67 frost fair that Samuel would have attended. This portrait 10 years after, 10 years after, this painting, and you can see how thick the ice would have been on the Thames, which is what allowed those frost fairs to take place without anyone careering through the ice. And what caused these frost fairs is the old London Bridge, which we see in the foreground here. The narrowness of its arches slowed the running pace or flowing pace of the water down to such a degree that when the tide was going out, many people refused to travel under the bridge because it was like riding rapids, and a lot of people were drowned that way over the years. But this slowing down of the water that the bridge caused is what caused the Thames to freeze and what gave the historical Londoners their frost fairs. When the old bridge was taken down, that's when London lost its frost fairs. A wood print from a frost fair, 1683-84. Sadly, the diary had been stopped by this point, but no doubt Samuel, at this time, with Mrs. Mary Skinner, would have attended this one. And as said in the description, a lot of things happened on the frost fairs. There were pop-up pubs. Sadly, over to the right, what you can see are bear baiting. There were also markets that you can see right in the foreground here. People riding carts across there. People used to go ice skating, and to ice skate in those days they would strap bones to their feet and their shoes and skate across the Thames. Must have been a very lively, active and interesting experience in those days. I mean, you think they made their own entertainment, and they had to, didn't they? So it must have been a very novel experience to walk on what is fast flowing, dangerous river otherwise, really. To be able to walk upon it must have been very novel. And now we're going to be heading off on our journey. So join me on board and back on the Thames, and we'll be going past some very, very famous landmarks in this one. So I hope you're all going to enjoy our journey on the way to the Prospect of Whitby. Off we go.
Hope you ladies and gents all enjoyed that one. And we're off on our own journey, a boat journey, and carrying on with our Samuel Pepys trail now. And there you can see the Great St Paul's, look. Over this side because there's a few things I want to show you on this side, particularly one coming up soon which I shall need to keep an eye on. London Bridge. Burned in the fire and mentioned in Pepys' diary. Just here, if you go around the back of St Magnus the Martyr Church, there's a lovely lookout point there. London Bridge Hospital. And we're off. HMS Belfast there, look. Until we're off again. And off we go to our next Pepys based location, drinking location, but we'll get some views of something very special before we go. Special for us, but certainly not special for Samuel Pepys, who spent 6 weeks imprisoned in the Tower. Entrance to Traitor's Gate just there, you can't see it in the dark, but that's where it is. was a very turbulent part of his life, and after he came out of the prison, that's when he went to Buckingham Street to live with Will Hewer. Prepare yourselves. As I said in my daytime tour, over this side of the river is an amazing old pub that hasn't changed its interior since the early 1900s. I'll take you there soon, and I'll do a tour of Tower Bridge as well. As we leave that dark memory for Samuel Pepys of the tower and that behind imprisonment, we go to our next Pepys-based location, which is on this side. Side of the boat. Because our next location is over here. I need to keep a close eye out for it. Here's something interesting that we're just about to go by now. This is the headquarters for the London the Thames Riverboat Police. Thames Police, this is their headquarters. Prospect of Whitby, our next Pepys-based location. And here we are, the Prospect of Whitby on Wapping Wall. The Prospect of Whitby, London's oldest riverside inn, circa 1520. There has been a pub on this site since 1520. When we go inside, the flagstones that we will walk on are the very flagstones that Samuel Pepys would have walked on, because they're 400 years old. So we will be walking in his footsteps, literally. So of all the places we've visited really St Olave's and this place are the two main places that we actually get to walk in his footsteps that still survive from his time. So yeah, this is a lovely old pub. It was originally called the Devil, now called, or then a long time ago its name was changed to the Prospect of Whitby. We're just waiting for it to open and then we'll go in, so I'll pause you and you'll join me inside. And in we shall go.
It's the usual thing. Tell me you turned off all the alerts on your phone and you didn't listen to any room chatter. Basically, you had 3 weeks on that. When I was in Norway, it was like, right, turn the bloody phone, group stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other saving grace on that one was didn't do roaming. Basically, I didn't bother with roaming, so I could use the Wi-Fi on the phone. So I wanted to look at something. As soon as I went on the shore, I didn't work at all. So I absolutely bliss.
Yeah.
And,
So you're walking on the original flagstones that Samuel Pepys would have walked on.
I heard you got a touch.
Still retains its original Victorian pewter bar top.
Obviously, he knows his way around. He's local, but he wasn't. He was just where he was running. He wasn't like doing a one bag or something goes wrong. Just literally just went running off into the distance. And we're just looking at that. But yeah, nice fun. Right, so, no, but when we first tested it, because only loud, flashing light, downstairs,
Hope you're all enjoying the tour so far. Those flagstones, great to be able to walk along on those in the footsteps of Samuel Pepys, as well as many other famous London people. You get some nice views down the Thames from here. Look, for when the tide gets really bad, it's got a lock seal door on it so they can lock it, because as you can see, the tide gets in pretty high nowadays. And I noticed that yesterday. I was at Queen Cleopatra's Needle yesterday, and the walking platform was about just under half a foot in water, so the tide levels are rising. The flood of 1953 destroyed 900 miles of coastline and made 200 people in East London homeless. The Thames Barrier was opened in 1984, costing 534 million, 1.6 billion pounds in today's currency. So yeah, that's why they have that. Should we go back inside? There's an upstairs to this one as well as a secret garden. Sorry, cheers. Here's the secret garden. The fuchsia was first discovered in 1696 in San Domingo and introduced to England via this pub. Brought in by a thirsty traveller from the New World, the first plant was traded here for a noggin of rum. Here's a piece of history for you, eh? The stone here identifies this wall as the boundary between the districts of Wapping and Limehouse. Don't you just love historical places like this? Judge Jeffreys, he was Caught at the town of Ramsgate pub. That will feature in another video once we've finished all the Samuel Pepys stuff. So, I keep pointing at this floor. I love this floor. I thought Samuel Pepys walking on that. Dickens visited this one as well as other people. Should go upstairs now. I'm achy today. I got soaked yesterday. Part of what I'm doing today was going to be done yesterday, but no. Separations here over the years, as well as poltergeists and poltergeist experiences. Wapping was a hard place in which to live, work, or even pass through. Many a poor soul would have lost their life here in all manner of unnatural ways. Yeah, this one is haunted. Badly haunted. Look at this old wall, look. The old Tudor bricks there. Much longer and thinner and narrower than modern bricks. Judge Jeffrey's memorabilia, he did drink here as well. He set himself up here when he was doing his trials under the Monmouth Rebellion. King James II, who was sent back in for being a Catholic. Flint Eye Lager, that's pretty decent, I'll give it its due. Away from the ears of the main crowd downstairs, many a smuggler's plot has been thought to be hatched in this room. The infamous pirate Captain Kidd was a regular patron in the Wapping hostelries. And yeah, you can just imagine, can't you? Things that have happened in here over the years. The old wood panelling as well. If walls could talk, eh? Now, Mr. Pepys is a ghost I would gladly, happily see and share with you all if such a thing happened. But he's only ever been seen in Buckingham Street in 1953, several times in 1953. His smiling apparition was seen on the staircase, and then by a cleaner in a chair where he looked at her, smiled and just disappeared. And apparently the woman, an East End woman, was not a bit phased. And knew who he was as well, so yeah, he'd have liked that. If you've read Pepys's diaries, which I have read the diaries, listened to the audiobooks, one of the things, and I think one of the main reasons of him writing the diaries, is because he had no children, did he? He didn't want to be forgotten. He wrote of someone in one of his diaries that he was a great man, but hath writ nothing to leave his memory to posterity by. Pepys wrote a lot. This is known as the Lookout, this one, what we're in at the moment, this room, for obvious reasons. That door's locked, I'm afraid, and I'm not unlocking doors and stuff. Not that I have the keys anyway, but you know what I mean. The Lookout. See, I told thee. London's oldest riverside inn, built circa 1520 in the reign of Henry VIII, has catered for the public successfully through the reigns of everyone from Henry VIII to King Charles III, the current incumbent. This is one of my favourite rooms, and this door. This is known as Pepys' dining room. When Pepys would visit, this is where the upper class gentlemen would dine, because a lot of the inns and pubs in those days lined themselves up along the lines of what were known as chop houses, where they would sell chops of meat. You could buy even a leg of mutton. The old common colloquial, if you listen to an audiobook by Simon Callow, when he talks about the true Cockney language and how bad it was, and a way to come along. Here are a leg of mutton and Irish chops. So, yeah. These are just some of the people who have drunk here over the years. During the 1950s and 60s, Wapping was an area in decline. However, the Prospect was going from strength to strength. This room was a restaurant, popular with many notable people in the day. Rob Steiger, Richard Burton, Kirk Douglas, Frank Sinatra, Paul Newman, Judy Garland, Muhammad Ali and Princess Margaret, to name just a few. This room was once used for boxing matches. Perhaps some of the earliest international bouts took place here between seamen from all parts of the world. Cockfighting is also known to have taken place in this room. Famous 18th/early 19th century boxer called Tom Cribb. He's buried at Woolwich at St Mary's. I'll cover him soonish when I get all our Pepys stuff done. I have some other stuff planned. I have been there before, but know a hell of a lot more about him now. I will cover that. and his career. He boxed here. Samuel Pepys, 1633 to 1703. Left London as a great legacy in the form of the diaries he kept, that tell us much of what we know today about London in the 17th century. He was known to be a regular patron here during his term of Clerk of the Navy and later Secretary to the Admiralty. And there he is, the man himself. Samuel Pepys. As you've probably gathered, he is my favourite historical Londoner. Yay! It's open. Oh, and we can get round that bit as well. Oh, excellent. The infamous hanging Judge Jeffreys was a local and regular patron here. It is said that he would enjoy his lunch on this balcony whilst watching the hangings at the place known as Execution Dock. It was Execution Dock that the famous pirate Captain Kidd met his end in 1701. The noose below this point reminds us of this gruesome man who later died in the Tower of London. Yeah, the people went after him. He was trying to escape on a boat to Holland or Germany, I think it was, and he got caught by, interestingly enough and poignantly and justifiably enough, someone who he'd condemned to a really harsh whipping, and the man recognised him. He was caught. People beat the crap out of him. Guards from the tower were sent for, and Jeffreys begged to be taken to that most infamous of places, the Tower of London, where he was taken. And being a very disliked man by the new king that had come in as well, he was known to be an alcoholic, was Judge Jeffreys, and he was given enough brandy with which to slowly, not too slowly because he died not long after, drink himself to death. And he died in his own mess in a cell in the Tower of London, locked away for his own safety at first, but a much, much hated man was Jeffreys. Yeah, that was cheerful, wasn't it? The lookout. Right. Hope you've all enjoyed this so far. I'm going to go and have my beer. You ladies and gents will join me back outside for a little something nice and morbid and almost wet. So join me outside for that. I hope you all enjoyed that little tour, walking in the footsteps of Samuel Pepys, as well as getting a tour of a fantastic old London pub. Certainly seen some history, this one. But we're not done yet. See cobbles, which you don't often see in London nowadays. Pelican Stairs. London Luke has arrived quite early, but that's okay. That gives us time to film these exterior scenes and such like. And but I've got it here early so I can time it for the tide, so I can get my pretty little self down here without getting too wet. Oh, these are rickety. Look. Good Lord. And this is the way Pepys would have got in. In those days, as I've said before, London, travelling by road, it just was not convenient or safe in many regards. The river was the main mode of transport, and that's the way he would have come. And you see the hangman's noose in recognition of all the pirates and whatnot that were hanged at Execution Dock, not too far from here. Prospect of Whitby. It hasn't changed too much at all in all those years, apart from its frontage around the front, which is Victorian, but this is very old, this part, and as is the flagstones that we saw inside. Amazing to be able to walk on the same surface as Samuel Pepys, because that floor's been there 400 years. And if you enjoyed that, the little boat journey, join me back on the boat as we pick back up on our journey from the Prospect of Whitby down to Woolwich, which takes us into working life. We've had Pepys on the piss, we've had where he was christened, where he was born, where he married. We've had Pepys on the piss now. You've seen where he lived. Yeah, so we're going to have a little bit of Pepys's working life, which Pepys often mixed work with pleasure. That's how it was done in those days. The taverns weren't just a place to go and get pissed. You often made acquaintances in the taverns and coffee houses. And Woolwich, where we're going to go to next, the Woolwich Arsenal, that played a big role in Pepys's life as well. So join me back on the boat, and that's where we shall go to next for our next part.
And for our historic look back at the Prospect of Whitby, we don't begin with an historic image, it's a 20th century one by artist Roland Hilder, but it does give us an historic look back to the Prospect of Whitby and the Thames in an era when Samuel Pepys would have well recognised it, full of sailing ships. So I thought this was a nice one to begin with. This late Victorian, early Edwardian photo, the oldest riverside inn overlooking Father Thames. The view from the veranda is ever changing. 56 Wapping Wall, London E1. Great old photo that. And here you can see another one here. This is late Victorian, early 20th century. And although the exterior of the rear of the pub has changed quite a bit since this era, we were able to walk down those very steps onto that same beach. This is circa 1900, this one. The Thames, as I say, would have been a hive of activity in those days. Busy industry. And you can see one of the old Thames barges moored up with another one next to it which has got sails on it. So yeah, and people all on the balconies. This is early 20th century as well. This is early 20th century, and you can see over to the left the ship being loaded up with a crane. Prospect of Whitby, after Chris Mager. L.R. Skipper, Thames Police Museum. Lovely old image, I thought this one was worth showing. 1937, the coronation year, and this is the Prospect all decked out patriotically. You can see it's absolutely packed. And you can see right at the very bottom in the water, there are men in one of the old little Thames barges that I thought, little Thames river taxis really, that I spoke about. Love this image. This is one showing the front, the exterior of it. And this is 1930s, this image, looking right through the bridge. And over to the right is the old Wapping power station. The pub remains. I like this image. This is, I think, 1930s, 40s, showing the Prospect of Whitby. And if you look at the gentleman over to the right, the man in black looks as though he's wearing a ARP warden's hat, which makes me think this is a wartime one, although it wasn't dated. 26th of September 1942, Mrs. Sanders, who runs the Prospect of Whitby Pub. So she was one of the old landladies. 26th of September 1942, men drinking in the Prospect of Whitby Pub in London. Original publication, picture post. And this is from a postcard, this one. I'm not sure of its date or era, but a lovely image. Prospect of Whitby Public House on the River Thames at Wapping on the 26th of September 1942, originally named the Devil's Tavern for its nefarious clientele. United Kingdom, January, I don't know if that's the 1st or the year 2000, it looks a bit old for that era, but photo Tony Bennett outside the Prospect of Whitby. Another nice old image. This one looks 60s or 70s. You can see over to the right all the cranes and dock activity that would have still been going on in those days. Very different now, isn't it? And this is a 20th century, late 20th century image, this one. 1980. Lovely painting. And that, ladies and gents, is the Prospect of Whitby. Hope you all enjoyed the tour. Thanks for watching.